Hello and welcome to Forest Tech. As always, we bring you tech reviews, tips and tutorials, and today is another tutorial coming your way. If you want your branding logo to fill up with some sort of liquid, be it water or some chemical or blood, then you can follow up with this tutorial. It's meant for beginner to intermediate user, so if you haven't tried your luck on After Effects, this is going to be a detailed tutorial. So feel free to just follow it up, and still, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So first of all, open up After Effects and make up a new composition. I'll set up a composition size to something standard like an HD TV and 1920 by 1080 full HD resolution. Set the duration to 4 seconds around. Keep the background color to black, and I'll set the name to main comp, basically just main, and hit OK. Now I'll just import my logo. I love the Nike logo, so I'm just going to use that for the demonstration purpose only. It's not sponsored by Nike or any such thing, so I'm just using it for the sake of example. I think it's a beautiful logo to work with. So the logo itself is quite big, so just hit the transparency to check up that since this is a PNG logo, so I'll just hit the transparency to enable the transparency of this logo itself. I'll transform it to center in the view and scale it down to 25%. Now I'll just go to pre-compose and pre-compose this and call this logo. So now I can go in and change my logo within this layer anytime I want doing so. Enable transparency so you can see the logo once again. Since this is a PNG and it's a transparent logo, so you need to have the transparency enabled to see this. Alright, now I'm going to search for an effect called Colorama and put this on top of this logo. Here I can change the color of the logo to anything that I wish doing so. So this is red at the moment. I'll just keep it somewhere around aqua white. Hit OK, and that's really it. Now I'll just add an effect going by a layer style and adding inner glow. Here I'll change the screen mode to normal, and really just this color is fine for me. I'm going to switch it to black. This is the size that you can basically change the size to your wish. I'm just going to leave it to 5 at the moment. So you can just enable or disable this thing to view what effect is this inner shine or inner glow having on this logo. It's kind of creating this inner shadow on the logo. Next up, I'll pre-compose this and I'm going to call this beveled logo. So we just want to add a bit more bevel and depth to this logo itself now. In order to do that, I'll add a new solid layer, call it glass. And here I'm going to search for an effect called CC glass. Drag and drop that on top of my glass layer. Go into surface drop down and choose beveled logo from here. So you can already see this depth map being created here for you. I'll set the softness to 0 because I want it to be sharp like this, and of course set the displacement to 0 as well. I'll leave the shading as it is. I'll move the glass layer below the bevel logo, turn it off. And what we want to do is basically use our beveled logo, right? Use that black beveled part to cover up with the glass effect. So as you can see, this glass effect is really having this effect. But we don't want that glass effect to happen on the entire logo, but that part where there's that black shadow or the black inner shadow that we've applied before on our bevel logo layer. So in order to do that, move the glass layer below, and I'm going to choose Track Matte and use Alpha Matte Beveled Logo. If it's not available, you can go into right click and go into columns and enable modes so you can see that Track Matte there. Now just go into drop down Alpha Matte Beveled Logo. So this glass effect is only going to be applied on that particular part, which is right there in your beveled logo, that black inner shadow part. You can see here, enable and disable CC glass, you can see where it is having its effect. So that's it. I mean, we've done it. We're very close to it. I'm just going to lock this layer up here and open up the beveled logo layer, so we can have both of these compositions side by side. Now if you go into your logo and go into your layer styles and open up that inner glow, you can see the effect of what this inner glow is causing and how all of this is working together with that CC class. So if you go into size, you can see how increasing the size can affect the depth or the chisel or the bevel of your logo on that displacement map itself. So I just came here to show you exactly how that inner shine is affecting it. I'm going to move it down back to something like maybe 7. And the technique you can choose to have precise. It's going to be more precise, more sharper definitely, or you can have it softer based upon what sort of feel that you're looking for. It's totally up to you. I'll move back the size to 6. I mean, this is something which depends upon your aesthetic. What you want to achieve with your logo is completely your own decision. It's completely your own look and feel that you want to do. I'll just go back to main. And I'll just close up all these locked windows so I can have a straight single window in front of me to work on and concentrate. All these extra panels I'm just going to close down, so I have just one bevel logo right in my frame. I'm going to switch back to main, and next up. Okay, so I told you that not to touch the shading, but you have to change the light from effect light to AE lights. But for those lights to work, we're going to add up 2 new lights to this composition, right? So first, go to new layer and new light. Leave it to point light, okay, and there you have a light working already, right? But since this is below that, adjust the light's position where you want it to be and move that light above on top of everything else. So now you can see the light affecting here. And increase the intensity to something like 150, around that is fine. Make a duplicate of it by Ctrl D. And move it down so we can lit the remaining part of the logo as well. Now if you turn these on and off, you can see how they are affecting the logo. Next up, making a new composition. Call it water fill. And here I'm going to drag and drop my beveled logo. Here, just make a new solid. Call it water fill. I'm going to look for an effect called turbulent noise. Sorry, turbulent displace. And here, I mean, this is applied. You can't see what's happening, but let's just draw a mask and see what this turbulent displace is really doing at the moment. See, it's already causing that sort of displacement around the selected area. If you move this around, you move this mask around, you can already see this displacement is already working right here. And that is what we're looking for. So what we've done is basically animated our mask path. I've just placed one keyframe where I have the mask path in the end, and then another keyframe which is where we have the mask path at the start of it. You will have to place a couple of intermediate keyframes right here. So, I mean, I don't know which shape are you going to work with, and of course, according to your shape, you'll have to animate the mask accordingly. In my case, these are the keyframes which I find are more reasonably required here, and moving around these keyframes and then adjusting them here and around is something which you're going to do. It's a trial, hit and error sort of a method where you have to see what works best for the shape of your logo that's under design. So for me, I mean, this looks like a good fill. I mean, this looks like a good keyframe arrangement of just few keyframes right here. If I just alpha matte this, I can see already this layer working for me. So you can already see that not only just it's making that mask, but it's also causing that turbulent sort of displacement in the edges of that mask. So it's not just a straight mask coming all the way from the start till the end, from right to left, but it's having some sort of displacement going on in the edges. So now, since this is working, but it's not really convincing, so as I said before, I'll just move around some of the keyframes and make them move the way they should as water fills in. Okay, it's time to drop that water fill layer straight into our main comp. can already see that effect working. Right, it's there, but it's very flat. So I'll search for the gloss, CC gloss once again, and apply that on top of my water fill. And for the displacement map, I'm going to choose beveled logo. So it is taking up all the information from the beveled logo, so it's going to have a bit of edge working with the beveled logo right here. So it's kind of we're almost getting there. Just a few more steps to go. I'm going to set the displacement to 0, so there are no distorted edges on the edge of this logo itself. Next up, I'm going to go to water fill layer and go to inner glow, and here I'll set the color to black. Set the blend mode to multiply. As you can see, it's already giving us some sort of depth going on now. It's looking a bit more convincing now, not flat anymore. And that's exactly what we had in mind. I mean, you can just open up the transparency to see how it's affecting. Play around a little bit with the blend mode. As I said before, the size, all of these things you can change around to see what works best for the shape or the logo that you're working with. For me, I think this looks good so far. The size of around 6, around 5.5. So as you can see, there is this little keyframe that's stopping on the edge of it. It's just making it look very static. It doesn't look very organically natural the way how the water flows. So as I said before, it's a hit and trial method. You have to go back and forth to see how the animation can be improved and move around these keyframes a little bit, move around the mask a little bit to improvise the shape. We're almost there. New solid, call it turbulence. I'm going to search for the effect called turbulent noise this time. It's not displace, it's turbulent noise. And I'm going to switch from fractal type to turbulent smooth. Contrast to something like 1300, so that's it. I don't think I need to change anything else, but just going to set evolution keyframe on the first keyframe, and on the end I'm going to set another keyframe and give an evolution of around 3. So it's just going to evolve over the period of time. You can already see that kind of wavy pattern, noisy pattern going on there. You can scale it down to something like 20 because that's a bit too much dense. This is that was a bit too vast, wider. This is a little bit more tighter, so I think 20 seems to be good for me as far as the scale is concerned. I'm going to move down turbulence layer just above water fill and duplicate water fill and call it water ripples. Okay, use the same layer. It has a CC gloss effect. The only thing we need to do is, without changing anything else, switch the lights to AE lights. That's the only change, and you have to change the bump map from bevel logo to the turbulence layer, which you've created before. So now if you change, you can't see the effect of that layer on top of this logo as yet, but the moment you switch from source to effects and mask, you can see that logo has that turbulence noise going on just by disabling this turbulence layer. So now if you play it back, you can see some sort of wavy water or ripple-ish pattern going on within that mask. So it adds a bit more element of water, so to speak, or liquid into it. So I'll just add a bit of rotation as well. So I'll just keyframe the first on the first frame. I'll just add a keyframe with the 0 rotation, and on the last frame I'll make another keyframe with 120 rotation. If you think that's a little too much of rotation going on, you can always go back and dial down the rotation from something like 120 to 75, and if I play it back now, I think it should look much better this time. Set the blending mode to multiply and water ripples to something like darken. Yeah, or maybe multiply, that's fine. I think it's a little too much for me, so I'll reduce it down to something like 50. Yeah, 48 or 50. So we don't want it to look too much because you just want to sell the effect, and for that one reason I think 50% is about enough. So there you have it, the water filling up and some ripple-ish waves going into it. And to just end the entire animation, I'll just go back to opacity and I mean, you can increase the scale if you think that I feel that the scale was a little too tight, so you can always go back, dial down the scale. It's a lot more easier when you have all the effects applied, and then you can go back and make slight minor tweaks here and there to improve on your previous adjustments and make it look more realistic and more interesting. So go back to your water ripples and add another inner glow, and here I'll just set this to black once again, and you can see that whole effect is now going to pack up much better this way. If I just add 15 to this, you can see these wavy ripples, this turbulent noise is packing inside this logo now, without that and with that on. If I just set it to normal, it's going to be a lot more obvious now when I make these changes. So as I said, softer or precise, these are sort of the choices that you have to make yourself according to your needs. So size of 7 looks to be good, or around 5 looks good. The rest of it I think is good enough to move forward and just turn it on and off to see how it affects. Yeah, I think we've got a bit more inner packing that's going on, so just squeeze it down, and to complete this off, I think finally you can set the opacity to 50 because 100 is a lot too much. 50 seems to be fine. I just want a very little subtle effect. I'll keyframe this opacity 50 and almost at 70% of my timeline, and then after a few frames I'll add an opacity of 0 degree. So after a while those waves are going to disappear, and that's it, you're back to your normal logo. So you have the water fill in and then it disappears. As the water settles in, obviously these waves need to disappear. So if I just play it back now, that's everything you need to know. Oh, you can just add a sort of a sound effect to it, a water pouring sound effect, and that's pretty much it. So I hope that you like this simple yet detailed tutorial, so all of you can possibly follow this and make something for yourself or for your own logos. If you still have any questions, put them down in the comments, and if you like what you see and if you like what you hear, then definitely a subs and like is always unimaginably amazing. I'll see you in the next video. Till again, Forest Tech signing out.